Hello everyone. In a previous session, I have discussed about the themes. In this session on Othello, I would like to discuss about some critical approaches. In this session, I would like to apply some of the literary terms on this literary work, and then we will try to see what are the interpretation or the concept idea we will get when we apply some of the literary theories. So, what that says in intro, Othello was crafted at the dawn of the 17th century, shaped by a complex social and geopolitical issues that the new historical critics who seek to place literary work within a historical framework have recently sought to unreveal. Yet, from its first staging to the present, Othello has also been among the few Shakespearean plays to be repeatedly suggested to enthusiastic audiences, not only in England but across the globe. This continued appeal suggests that the tragedy transcended the time and location in which it was written. A provoking new interpretation from generation to generation, place to place, in order to appreciate Othello. Means in the first intro or the first half talks about in third line we see historical framework. Means what they want to say is that it's written in a 17th century but within an aspect of historical framework we are looking. Why? Just because when the time was consuming too much, like now in the 21st century we are interpreting, we giving an interpretation to Othello, then it is damn sure it will be changed, and we will see within a narration of historical framework, or we will consider as a historical document. In that way we will consider Othello, or somehow we will find some of the historical aspect in that work. So friends, that's a concept in our mind that literature is never be separately studied. Why? Just because there is an always historical marks on every literary work, that every single work there is a little bit historical uh, parts are there. So it's always been connected with the history. The first one which we have applied here, the term is postcolonial reading, something from Cyprus. So let's see. First of all, you guys need to know the post-colonial time period, which shows the area, particularly the African region and the Asiatic region, which is covered up by Britishers or particularly European people, and then which is known as a colonial time period. That at the time the European people are settling here, they started businesses, farming, they are taking ownerships of that land, and they are using as a material, so which is known as post-colonial time period. And after that that the local people are understanding them, they have started learning their master's language, and then they make a revolt. That time period known as a post-colonial time period, that at the time the slaves are started learning their master's language, and they are making revolt. So now the post-colonial theory we will apply in Othello. So can we find some of the post-colonial aspect in Othello? Yes or not? Let's see it. Post-colonial reading focus on the play representation of often Ottoman Turks. Representation of Ottoman Turks. Shakespeare derived Othello's plot from a short narrative in Geraldi Canothes Gilli Hectominithi, 1565, but set his play within the context of Venice struggle during the 1570s with the Ottoman Empire for the control of Cyprus, the eastern Mediterranean island that overlooked the shipping lanes between Europe and trading centers in the east. I hope so. You guys have an idea about in ancient time there is a Silk Route, so that Silk Route will be meet on the point of Cyprus or maybe that known as Turkey. uh, at that point all the European or the westerner and all the businessmen who come from an east, so it is in that point that the bridge connect east and west, both the sides people are connecting on the Turkey, so that is the place. That's why the Cyprus has that most important site to use, and Shakespeare knows that some of the geopolitical aspect. That's why he prefer that let that put a Cyprus in a center. But the story was moved within a Venice struggle, but at the end he was also talking about a Cyprus that we also need to know. During the 1570s, with the Ottoman Empire control of Cyprus, the eastern Mediterranean island that overlooked the shipping lanes between Europe and the trading center in the east. Venice owned Cyprus from 1470 to 1569, but in 1571, Turkish force seized this island. Later, later that year, in alliance of Christian power, defeated the Turk in the famous naval battle of Lepanto. As a young man, James VI of Scotland, James I of England in 1603 celebrated a battle fought betwixt the baptized race and circumcised turban Turkish. The reference throughout Othello, the Turk or the turning Turk, evoke the intermediate, conflict between Europe Christian power and the Islamic Ottoman Empire, which is a much economic competition as a class of religious. In a sermons and a treatise, English writer like Richard Connells, who published the General History of Turks 1603, demonized the Ottoman Empire as a barbaric and cruel. Even they admire its military success and bureaucratic structures. Means that in the first half of the postcolonial reading, in this first para, the main important part about Cyprus history, they are focusing that why Cyprus is too much important for everyone. For Europe, that it's a center for a business. Western and Eastern, both the side are linking on that side. So for everyone want make a control. So first Ottoman Turkish are able to make a control on that, but later on in the battle betwixt that kings are able to win. And one more thing, it's a fight of a religion. As you can see, it's a fight between the Christianity and Islamic state. So that is also one of the perspective which is talks about religion also. But here right now we are focusing as a on a post-colonial reading. So that was an important of a Cyprus. Shakespeare draw upon the Christian Turkish binary, but also understand it by making the play most violence character a Venetian and its hero an outsider. See the word, it's a hero and outsider. Fearful of wasting military power in one of its own citizen, Venice Republican government contract with the foreigner mercenaries who could easily be dismissed once the crisis was over. Although the Othello has been chosen by the Venetian government to lead its army, the move the remains on the island in Venice. Like the liminal island of Cyprus, he is caught in the middle, neither European nor Turk, yet embodying both. And in his suicide, he highlights his services as a Christian hero by killing the turban Turk within who beat a Venetian and Judas the states. Means in the second para, what they want to focus, the focus is about hero, and as a hero that is outsider, and except as a Christian hero, that is quite a little bit strange thing. But is it possible? Why? Just because it's in a Shakespeare's play. So, and the motive or that the purpose that Venetian government are forcing, or that they says that only can Othello do. Why? Just because that's a Moor, and that Moor can do. So at the end, the Venetian original army will not die. The Moors, that means the slaves army will die. So that's why they are tell to Othello that you can go. Why? Just because Othello is outside. If outsiders are dying, then doesn't matter. It doesn't matter just because the original your population will be still surviving. So that's why preferring Othello as a leader to in this battle. So one of the critics or the reader says that might be possible. That's why Othello was leading this army. Why? Just because he was outsider. So if Othello will kill, so at the end Venice will not lose anything, but Othello will lose his life. So that is also a motive. Othello's geopolitical impact is not limited. However, the conflict between Venice and the Ottoman Empire, Othello's blackness and his background as a foreigner mercenary prefigures the hybridity postcolonial theories have identified in a colonial subject. Barbancho and Desdemona are fascinated by his strange stories of cannibals and anthropologies. Othello's first gift of to her is a handkerchief given him an Egyptian charmer dead in the mummy and steeped in the ancient lore of charmers, sibyls, and magics. The Moor's stories allow Desdemona to experience the exotic erotic delight found by many early modern readers in the travel narrative that describe in the enters west and unexplored territories in Africa, the Eastern and the New World. So means at the end, Othello is not belong to a Christian community. At the end, he is not Muslim. But still, it's a quite strange thing that he work as a soldier in Venice. It's a quite a little bit difficult to digest for anyone. On that in the 70s or the 60s, that at the time Othello is working for a Christian army. So it is a quite different thing for European people also, that as an a Moor, someone is not belong to the same race or the same class or community or religion, but still he is serving as a duty for them. So why? And they want to know about their motherland and their stories, some of the exoticness which is missing in Europe. So that's why. So as that Desdemona's father says that there is a witchcraft. So truly there is a witchcraft on Othello's words. Othello's words are the witchcraft, just because whenever Othello try to tell the story, it goes with some of the emotion or that kind of feeling will erase. So that's why Desdemona feel a little bit closeness with Othello. So that was the about post-colonial reading. So what we have see here, so first paragraph which is talks about Cyprus and his history, and the writers who have also wrote about Turks, and then the Ottoman empires, and also the reading that why Cyprus is most important and In the second para, we have tried to cover up idea or concept that what why Shakespeare used a Venice and the Cyprus connection, or then the Turkish connection that we have seen, and then the religion role. And finally, in the last para, we have discussed about our hero and his geopolitical connection and his duty, where he was doing duties and for whom he was fight, and why that his wife Desdemona feel little bit exotic with Othello's storyline, just because it gives a little bit some of the charm, chunks, and the feelings whenever Othello tell his braveries storylines. So that connects with the postcolonial reading. Now let's see talk about a new historicism or that historical reading for far more fair than black. New historicist critics often debate whether or not race was an effect in early modern representation on non-English peoples. Although Othello's racial identity is clearly a factor in Shakespeare's text, when the play was first performed, the audience would not have seen it as a skilled focus on a race as we do. As editor Michel Neal observed, to talk about race in Othello is inevitably to fall into some degree of anachronism, while to ignore it is to affect something fundamental to the tragedy. As a result, Shakespeare's Othello has been appropriated worldwide as a vehicle for exploring of a racial and ethnical tension. So means what they want to say is the new historicism or historiocritics who talks about the new historicism, they say is that when that originally Othello was come, at that time there is a no racism is there is not a racism was included, but unfortunately when that modernism after post-colonial era was ended, then we add this crunch of racism. So first when that Shakespeare was writing at that time, we don't find a racism, but this racism we have added very later on. So it's a late adaptation. In the opening scene, Iago refers to Othello as the thick lips, and the later he raises a toast in the health of Black Othello. Through this and the other comments, we learn that Othello is a Black Africa of a sub-Saharan origin. In 1604, England was not yet formally embraced in the slave trade, but as early as 1565, English privaters had bought captured Africans, and Shakespeare may well have known some of them or other people of African heritage. Contemporary conception of a race and racism influenced by a history of racial slavery in the 18th century. Pusillanimous sentences are often based on hard and fast racial categories that were only spent in Shakespearean England, while Iago's and Barberton's remark in Act 1 accuse what is today accepted as an racism. The Duke's pronunciation that Othello is a far more fair than a black, and Montanus claim that the man commanded like a full soldier indicate that high esteem others have for him. Nevertheless, a reference to Othello is a black and Moor, as well as his lack of understanding of Venetian custom establish his liminal position in Venetian society. See, friends, in the second para, what we are finding some of the dramas word or that comment, like in that first line, what we find the thick lips, the health of a black Othello, and the lastly what we find far more fair than a black. Montanus claimed that the man commandants are like a full soldier, a Moor. Othello is a black. So means these kind of words are written in Shakespeare time means they are aware about racism, but not directly they are saying, but they are in a literary way they are pronunciationing these words. So uh, not directly but indirectly they are telling to their readers that the upcoming time is talks about African slavery, that the human trade will start. So in the Shakespearean time it's not quite started, it will later on come on 18th century, but some of the footmarks or that historical steps we are able to find there. So in the second para, that's the talks. In Shakespeare's time, Othello was performed by Richard Burgess, a white actor who wear a black makeup and a wig of a black lamb's wool. And still, by the early 19th century, a truly black Othello was no longer tenable in England and America also. The English actor Edmund Kane chose instead to appear as an North Africa in light brown makeup, suggesting an African from the Mediterranean rim rather than sub-Saharan, with the exception of Ira Eldridge, a black actor who portrayed Othello throughout Northern European in the 19th century, whose role was taken by a white actor in various shades of makeup until the Afro-American actor Paul Robeson undertook the role in London 1930 and New York. Since then, a black actor have usually impressed and Shakespeare's mood. Means in the last para on about the racism, that the title, that new historicism, new historicism's reading, in that the last para is talks about that the blackness which is represented by some white people. So it's a quite not possible that any of the white men can understand the emotion or feeling which are there in that mind, that they cannot justify their character. Why? Just because they cannot feel the pain or that the struggle. They cannot feel someone says Moor, or someone says black, or someone says savage, or someone say you are slave. So maybe that the actor cannot define that, but some of the Afro-American, as they says, like an Paul kind of an actor, they can know that how their ancestor has become slave, and what a terrible condition they have faced, so they can know, so they can justify the character. So sometimes if you want to justify your character, somehow you need some of the emotional attachment with that character, then and then you can do it. But if you are belong to that side, then you can easily do it. So for some of the Afro-American writer, that actors can quite easily do than other actors can do. So third one, a feminist reading, Maiden Never Bold. Feminist critics highlight the way Shakespeare portrayed a gender role. In Act 1, Scene 3, Barbento described his daughter Desdemona as a maiden made never bold. Yet in choosing a foreigner, she has violated the Venetian norms of arranged enogramous marriage and rejected her father's authority. Still, she honored the patriarchal dictums that once married, the wife owes her husband and the same respect and duty she had shown her father. Emilia too defers to her husband Iago's wishes, even after she realized the full extent of his validity. She admired this proper I obey him, but not now. At the same time, romance poem and lie often countered patriarchal authority in favor of a romantic love, just as a duke overrules Barbento's demand in Act 1, Scene 3. In a fictional narrative, the blocking father figure cannot prevail and young lovers marry. If Othello ended after Act 1, it would be, as many commenters have observed, a romantic comedy. So means that the interpretation of two women. So first one is in Desdemona, and second one will comes with the Emilia. What they want to say is that with the Desdemona, feminists should be in a revolting, but here we cannot find why. Just because Desdemona is a quite innocent, honest girl, that yes, first time that she has overruled, or she has broke some of the rule of Venetian culture, that she goes to marry outside of her community. That's quite wrong. So she cannot obey her father, but at the end what we find, still she is obey to her husband's duty also, and she was managing her father's duty, or that what are the responsibilities toward her father, that she was also maintaining. At the same way, with the same example, we will refer in the case of Emilia, that Emilia never make an argument with Iago, that she never asked Iago that why you need the handkerchief. Is it in someone's for like an Othello's and Desdemona, for them it's a first love symbol, that they have that some personal emotional attachment with them, and why you need that. But she cannot ask any question, why? Just because Iago is a husband. So here we will find a feminist reading which is in a very hard way. Else now see in the another para. Else the Desdemona and Othello's love is no match for Iago's plot, and the green-eyed monster jealousy. In indefinitely identifiably was the ultimate marital crime in early modern England. The prospect of illegitimized child subvert the bedrock of the year's social and economic system. The inheritance of a property from father to son, in a speech that is often described as a proto-feminist, Emilia argued that a wife identify as a response to the husband's behavior. Means that patriarchy always work. What they want at the end, someone, boy or male, should be hold their inheritance. Girl cannot hold inheritance, and that here in the you will find in this conversation or the dialogue which shows Desdemona reject this reasoning, promising not to pick a bad from a bad, but by bad man. As she nears death in the play final moment, she exonerates Othello by claiming no one has murdered her except herself. So that her murder became a suicide. Why? Just because she want to protect her husband. So still she is obeyed to her husband, which is wrong according to feminist reading. Women should make a revolt. If going something wrong with her, she has to be making a revolt that it's wrong. It should be changed. So the feminist ideology says work with a different way. From the play's earliest performance, the audience respond sympathetically to Desdemona's plight. After, in the 1620s, a 1610 production at Oxford, Henry Jackson recalled that Desdemona entered the pity of the spectator by her very countenance. That changed in the late 20th century, however, when feminist critics underscore Desdemona's entitled that independence and Emilia's eventual strength, and outline the way both women as well as a counterness of Bianca Courtesans Bianca were concentrated by the male characters of patriarchal suspension. From the feminist perspective, early modern England's perception with the shackling demonstrate as a basic male insecurity about women's sexuality. Here now they refer within a three example that Bianca is also there, but Bianca is more powerful woman than any others. like that Emilia and that Desdemona are quite not of making a revolty, but Bianca is not that much revolty, but she can make a control to the every man's character just because she has that power. She can do it just because she is belong to that some of the dark side of the society, so she can. It is the curse of services. That's the reading of Marxist. Marxist critics are concerned with the economic and psychological impact of a early modern England hierarchy social system. In 1604, James I took Shakespeare's acting company under his patronage and making Shakespeare a servant of the king. Indeed, services to someone in the higher position was expected from the lowest kitchen maid to the lord and ladies of the king's court. The pecking order in Othello is clear. The duke, an aristocratic member of the Venetian Senate, give given order to Othello, who in turn commanded his lieutenant Cassio. In sign, Iago is a subordinate to the both. All three essential services out of a loyalty to the state and for the status. Their military position bring, but they can be dismissed at the pleasure of their superiors. Iago resists Cassius as a man with a daily beauty in his life. Heads being tied to Othello's service and earned for a preferment. Preferment. The difference graduation, gradiating situation of a situation embedded in the text are often represented in a military terms, with Iago present as a raw-speaking non-commissioned officer, resentfully of Cassius' rank and courtly manners. But the play's exploration of rank and class go beyond the military. Iago repeated advice put money in the purse, suggests that a new economic model was replaced the feudal obligation of services, which had been based on a bond of loyalty and a duty between servant and master. As a servant of the king, Shakespeare who applied for a coat of arms to be named as a gentleman, but was also an entrepreneur who loaned money and invest in a land and rents was implicated in both models. So means it talks about a Marxist theory which is against to capitalization. But in Othello, where we can find where that the military power position, Cassius and Othello, that Iago are fighting for that lieutenant position, that Senate members and that lord and ladies, that the powerful people from the Senate member, which is shows that. So that talks about a Marxist theory. So friends, that was the thing, and I'm sorry if some of the spell if I have pronounced wrongly, just because it's a little bit too small word for looking in the screen, also a little bit problematic, but I have tried to cover up. So I hope so you guys understand betterly about criticism what they says.